The next presentation will feature a panel of experts representing the largest civic groups in San Diego. The panel will be focused where San Diego's strengths lie in terms of investment, what draws investors to San Diego, and what we're doing as a region to keep the momentum and growth going in San Diego. Please welcome President and CEO of the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Jerry Sanders, who will be leading this panel presentation. So I'd like to invite the panelists to the front. Thank you. Stairs are to my left. And for those of you that don't know Mr. Jerry Sanders, he was a former mayor of San Diego and a fine mayor during a great time in our city. So we definitely appreciate him and a great friend to organized real estate.
Thank you. Thank you. You want us all sitting down?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Jerry Sanders.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting us this morning. I'm sure I speak for each of the speakers. Of course, you guys can disagree if you want. I don't really care.
It's great to be here.
I'm going to, what we're going to talk about a little bit today is a little bit about San Diego, and we've got some people who are very important in terms of the assets that they have and then also what they do. So I'm going to kind of introduce the panel. I'm Jerry Sanders, and I was the mayor of San Diego, now president of the Chamber of Commerce in San Diego. But I don't know anything about real estate, I just want to tell you right now. I was a cop for my entire career, so I know how to write a ticket really well. But buying a house to me is like a foreign subject, so I'm going to let them be the experts on all of this. I can tell you a little bit about San Diego for those of you who are from other places. San Diego has exploded over the last probably 30 years in terms of growth and in terms of a downtown. When I first started out in the police department in the 70s, downtown was a place where Marines and Navy people got in trouble every night. And the downtown was developed as an attraction for young Marines and young sailors. And it's only exploded over the last 20 years into what you see today. And it's a tremendous asset for San Diego. In terms of the city structure, the city got themselves in some trouble in the late 90s and the early 2000s with some bad management of the capital that the city had. And it took a community-wide effort to pull us out of that, and many of the people in this audience helped out. We were able to turn the pension system around, turn it into a 401k, that probably the only government in the United States that's done that instead of having a defined pension plan. So we'll no longer have pension deficits into the future. Did the same thing with our health care plans. Instead of the defined benefit health care plans, you see in almost all municipalities and all county and state government, we now have a 401k savings plan for our employees. And from a time when we were on the verge of bankruptcy back in 2005, we have surpluses every year now, and that money's starting to go into infrastructure and starting to go into improving a lot of the things that we weren't able to do for quite some time. But once again, it was a community-wide effort. Everybody participated in it. And I think that's the reason we see a very different San Diego that's much more attractive to investment and development than we've seen in the past. And with that, I'll introduce our panel. I'll start with Marshall Merrifield, who's on my far left, or your right. Marshall was sworn in to the Board of Port Commissioners in April 2013. He represents, he's one of the City of San Diego's representatives. He's the Port Vice Chair right now, and I believe you're Chair starting in 2016. Congratulations,
like that,
I think. Marshall's also President and CEO for Blue Wave Security, which manufactures high-tech equipment for video and door access surveillance. He was previously President and CEO for the security company General Lock and Clark Security Products, the largest privately held security hardware business in the United States. And the one thing that I really remember about Marshall, and all of you will be able to relate to this if you've ever watched a football game, you know when you see that line, that yellow line that says first down? Well, that's his. He's the one who came up with that. So he had a tremendous impact on football on TV, if you think about it. We used to have to guess. Now we know exactly when the first down's made or they missed that. So Marshall, you've left your mark on America. Thank you very much. He also co-founded the Pacific Ridge School in Carlsbad and serves on the campaign as one of the co-chairs to end homelessness, which is an issue in the downtown area. Let me move on to Sean Barr. Sean's a Vice President of Economic Development for the San Diego Economic Development Corporation. He's principally responsible for developing and executing retention, expansion, and investment attraction programs in support of San Diego's key economic drivers and job growth strategy. His international and domestic experience has involved the development and delivery of numerous entrepreneurial development and economic development programs in support of high-wage, advanced technology jobs. And he's also been involved in the development of many local projects and initiatives designed to assist in the commercialization of new technologies, which include improved access to capital and new markets for local entrepreneurs. And finally, Robert Gleason, who's a neighbor. We could have ridden over here together. Well, I guess we didn't coordinate very well. Robert served on the Airport Authority, and he served on the Airport Authority board. He's been the chair of that for a long time. And I know he gives me ugly looks because I first appointed him to do that, and it's turned into a life term. He has been there since 2009, and he was just reappointed by Mayor Faulkner to his second term as the chair of that. Done a tremendous job. In fact, I just can't say enough about the job that he did. We had some turmoil, and he was able to get everybody through that and really set out on a plan to make the airport exactly what we need. He's also the president and chief executive officer for Evans Hotels, which owns and operates the Lodge at Torrey Pines, the Catamaran Resort Hotel and Spa, and the Bahia Resort Hotel. He's been there for about 30 years, and so you started when you were 18 as a reservations agent. It's a good thing. He also has been a director of the San Diego Convention Center Corporation. He's been the vice chair of the City of San Diego Funds Commission and a member of the City of San Diego Salary Setting Commission. And he's also formerly adjunct faculty member in the L. Robert Payne School of Hospitality and Tourism Management at San Diego State. And I'm forgetting, what?
Go Aztecs.
Go Aztecs, you're right, on Friday night.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the work that San Diego has done over the past 2 or 3 years, really, to grab a better share of the global marketplace and increase our standing as a community, as a globally competitive region. And I'm glad this works. So San Diego, for all intents and purposes, has been punching below our weight, relatively speaking, as it respects global engagement. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But first off, really what's at stake for our community, what's at stake for San Diego in the global marketplace. Today, North America represents around 18% of the world's middle class. In 15 years, we'll represent less than 7% of the world's middle class. And as we all know, that major shift in demographics is predominantly happening in the Asia-Pacific region. So in 15 years, nearly 70% of all the world's middle class, or essentially the world's consumer base, will be in the Asia-Pacific market. Certainly, San Diego on the Pacific coast is positioned well to take advantage of that. We also see a rapid shift, as you all know, in the availability of foreign capital. And you see the red line essentially represents the U.S. share of all foreign direct investment. So in 1984, the U.S. represented 45% of the world's foreign investment. Now we were given all the market dynamics, was it plausible for the U.S. to maintain that share? Likely not. But today you see we represent about 12% of all foreign direct investment or all foreign capital that is deployed. And you see that juxtaposed with the blue line, which is the availability of foreign investment. So as cities begin to create a larger middle class that creates wealth, and that wealth now obviously is being deployed around the world in markets predominantly outside the United States. Over the next 5 years, 86% of the world's growth will happen offshore outside of our borders. For San Diego, both exports and foreign direct investment represent over 11% of all employment here in our region. So just nearly 110,000 jobs that are tied to our ability to engage in global markets. Perhaps more important than the employment number is the role that foreign investment plays relative to research and development, as well as capital investment in a community that prides itself for our innovation economy. You see that foreign investment or foreign-owned enterprises represent nearly 20% of all research and development expenditures here in our region, and nearly 15% of all capital investment. So foreign-owned firms punch above their weight relative to their research and development and capital investment. And of course, there are stories here in our community which we all know about. Qualcomm, one of our largest employers, nearly 98% of all of their revenue is derived from foreign sources. Of course, a large Japanese footprint here in San Diego over the course of the past number of years, including companies like Kyocera, Takeda Pharmaceuticals, just to name a few. So why now? Why are we paying attention to this today? As Jerry talked about, we've gone through an interesting period, I would say, of political instability in San Diego, but we're certainly in a great spot with the leadership from Mayor Faulkner currently at the helm at the city of San Diego. So great political leadership, strong fiscal stability, and economic strength. And I would argue that these three factors, frankly, have not come together in the last 10 or 15 years here in San Diego. So time is now for us really to be able to grab a greater share of the global voice. You see the markets that represent both the top 5 export markets for our community in red, as well as the top 5 foreign direct investment markets. The overlay essentially tells us that 9 cities represent nearly 70% of all foreign investment and nearly 65% of all of our exports into and out of San Diego. So these cities or metro markets will increasingly play a significant role. And as we all know, positioned on the world's busiest border crossing, the binational aspect of our region is an incredible competitive advantage for us. We see that as a percentage of advanced industries, you see that San Diego's advanced industries represent nearly 44% of all foreign investment. And a lot of this is driven by that binational makeup of our region. You see the blue line, which represents essentially the growth of foreign investment in advanced industries in the United States. The red line is San Diego's growth in terms of foreign investment in our advanced industries. So a clear differentiator for our community. You also see the fact that as a percentage of employees at global companies in advanced industries, it's a mirror image both here in San Diego and in northern Baja, which I think depicts the cross-border nature. I won't get into this because I'll move along here. I know we've got a number of other presentations we want to cover, but as a percentage of employees in Baja that have global companies headquartered in California, significantly, I think an important point here to demonstrate the fact that our two economies are inherently tied, that 34% of all employees in Baja report their corporate headquarters here in California. So just an example of that binational nature of our economy. So over the course of the past 2 or 3 years, as I've mentioned, our community has taken note of these important changes in the global economy and obviously taken stock of our inventory and competitive strengths. And we've developed a global competitiveness initiative that includes, of course, our partners at the port, of course, our partners at the airport, the chamber, over 40 different organizations from around the community, and also 300 businesses who have been at this table now for 2 or 3 years, creating an initiative to really grow our export base, increase our FDI-related jobs, connect better with those peer metro markets that drive the vast majority of our growth. We've seen new aircraft come into San Diego that tie us directly with markets both in Tokyo and in London, and I know we're looking to increase that lift here in the community over the course of the next year. And then addressing our global identity. We find that sometimes the sun casts a bit of a shadow over our science. Of course, San Diego is a great place to visit, a fabulous place to live, but there is also some great science going on here in San Diego. The research and development capacity of our region is frankly second to none, and we're working to enhance our global identity really to reflect that reality. So we've been doing a lot of work over the past, I would say, year or two. I'm not going to go through all of this because it will probably take us until this afternoon to cover all our bases and work that we've done over the past really 9 months. But our mayor has taken up the challenge to really plant San Diego's flag in the global market. We began the year with a conversation with the mayor of London, Boris Johnson, certainly an interesting character. But our mayor went toe-to-toe and held his own, that's for sure, with the mayor of London. And that's the kind of conversation that increasingly San Diego needs to grab as we really demonstrate our global competitiveness. The conversation was covered by both the Atlantic magazine and Politico magazine that spoke about companies like Cubic Technologies or Cubic Corporation, who frankly are operating the world's public transportation systems, including the London Tube, just to name a few. It spoke about what San Diego, frankly, can teach the world, because our university academic capacity here in our region is second to none. And I'm going to close with just a video that JP Morgan Chase and the Brookings Institution, two of our partners who we've been working with to build this global competitiveness strategy over the past 3 years, they really featured San Diego in a way that I think is probably best said through their medium. So I'm going to close with this, take a seat. It's just a quick 2-minute video.
There you go. The Global Cities Initiative is a 5-year partnership between the Brookings Institution and JP Morgan Chase, and our fundamental focus is on how do you help U.S. cities understand their competitive position in the global economy. Their strategies to help grow business, leverage their competitive position, and focus on this important collaboration that exists in cities between universities, companies, and the public sector. In the United States, cities and metropolitan areas have enormous powers. They have the innovation ecosystem that drives economies forward. The top 100 metropolitan areas alone sit on only 1/8 of our landmass, but they're 2/3 of our population and 3/4 of our GDP. And on every indicator that matters around innovation, infrastructure, and skills, they're at 75, 80, 85, 90% of the nation's share. So we're a preeminent economy in the world because we're a metropolitan economy. San Diego exemplifies what we would call the metropolitan revolution. It's got a great platform for a productive, innovative, sustainable economy. Because they have a great base of innovative companies and talented workers and advanced research institutions.
I really think it comes down to partnerships. We had to collaborate to compete, and if I was talking to any other region in the country and they were asking me the one element, the one secret of San Diego's success, it would be that. It would be collaboration.
It's not government against business. It's not business against universities. It's all of them coming together to power the region forward.
The fact that San Diego's either number 1 or 2 in biotechnology has created a huge industry here. The universities provide a huge talent pool. People want to stay in this environment, so we found hiring new, highly trained people very easy here.
San Diego is a global city. It makes products and services for the global market. It attracts foreign direct investment, and it absolutely attracts talent from all over the world. You don't export unless you're making a product that is high quality that the rest of the world wants, and you don't attract investment from around the world unless you are really good at what you do. And that's the San Diego story.
All right, so I'll wrap up there. One thing I'll just end with is you've heard the culture of collaboration and the role that San Diego really has been able to play in the global economy. And a lot of this is tied back to our ability to collaborate, to compete. So on any given day or any given week, we're working very closely with obviously the Chamber, the airport, and the port as our great partners. One thing I find about San Diego, this is a very flat city. You can get access to anybody in this community with relative ease to engage in conversations about real estate or global competitiveness. So we're really pleased to be up here today, and thank you to the SDAR for the invitation to speak to you this morning.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sean. That was terrific, and certainly San Diego is a great place to be, and we are just thrilled that you're here. Thank you for joining us. The Port of San Diego is, a cargo port. Yeah, it's also a cruise port, but our biggest asset is real estate. we are really a real estate landlord. We have 800 tenants and subtenants around 32 miles of land. And the land happens to be right along the bay. So all of a sudden, you have this wonderful land that has many, many potential uses. And this is a big picture of our bay. The 32 miles of land that the port owns is next to the 11 miles of land that the Navy owns. So we are neighbors with our Navy and our Marines and our Coast Guard, and we're proud of that. And we have a great working relationship. We're with them all the time. But our charter and our call was established in 1962. California state government created the 11 California ports and put land next to each of the cities, LA, Long Beach, San Francisco, Oakland, San Diego, next to those cities into trusts. And those city governments then populate the trusts with a commission. And the commissioners are the ones who are the stewards of that land right along that water. Here we have 5 cities that are bordering the bay, so that 5 cities populate the commissioners: Coronado, Chula Vista, Imperial Beach, National City, and San Diego. 7 of us total. So our job is to promote economic development, promote navigation, fisheries even, also recreation, and we're environmental stewards. Now within our land mass, there is approximately 2,400 acres of land and 3,000 plus acres of submerged land. In other words, the land under the water around the edge of the bay. So it's a wonderful place to start, and we're very privileged to be the stewards of this valuable land. We within our real estate portfolio, see if I can get the next slide here. Oh, that's the other green button. There's 2 green buttons up here. Within our land mass, in our real estate portfolio, we do a lot of industrial working waterfront type land deals, leases, long-term leases, for people like Dole on our marine terminal, or Pasha Automotive, National City Terminal. We're the 5th largest auto port of cargo in the country. But the jewel of our real estate portfolio happens to be around the visitor serving activities. So hotels, restaurants, sports fishing, a wide variety of uses. And we're thrilled that we're very fortunate to be able to promote this. Within Port Tidelands, we have 16 hotels. 17 is being built right now. Currently, on the screen there, you'll see the Bayfront Hilton was built in 2008. A couple of quick facts on that one. And by the way, we're open for business. There's a table in the back after the break with some port folks, and we'll talk more about real estate opportunities we have, because I know that would be interesting to you. With this particular hotel, it's a $355 million project that was built in 2008. Also with a 4-acre park. Often what we'll do is give a long-term lease to the developer, and then they end up building some amenities, some public amenities, either waterfront access or a park. We work in collaboration. There's also on the Bayfront Hilton, the parking garage that the port manages. Lane Field, which is going up right now, is a $133 million project. It's a 253-room Spring Hill Suites by Marriott and 147-room Residence Inn by Marriott. There's a setback park also right in front that the developer has built. We expect to cut the ribbon on this in 2 or 3 months. What a great example. We also have currently a host of restaurants. This is a picture of Costera, our most recent restaurant that's just opened in August of 2015. We have a total of 74 restaurants around the bay. More than 60% of this seating is outside. There's a public promenade in this $15 million project that was also built as part of the access to the bay by the developer. And it features modern Mexican cuisine. Terrific place if you get a moment. We have a great opportunity in Point Loma right now for a new restaurant. We're looking for developers. If you're looking for an opportunity, it's a great one. This area just went over, had a $4 million makeover in front of it with the roadway and bikeway in front, so it's got 130 new parking spots. We do that kind of thing to set the table for developers and investors to do a long-term deal with us. We have two fabulous new opportunities that I wanted to point out for you guys here today. One is the Harbor Island on the left of the screen. This is a statement of interest and qualifications. We're inviting developers right now to look at this 57-acre parcel. This is right across from the airport where the Avis and Hertz and enterprise rental car facilities are. Those agencies or those companies will be renting from the airport across the street now, and this is wide open now for development. So we're hopefully looking for terrific hotel, there's maritime opportunities there, office even for relating to our harbor police. We have our own police force, by the way. So at the airport, the police officers you saw were port officers. We are very eager to sort of get going on this parcel, and there's probably one big hotel in there as well. Another terrific opportunity is on the right, our downtown San Diego corner. Currently occupied by Seaport Village. We have decided that for that 30-acre parcel, just south of the Midway, bordering the Hyatt, we need to redevelop that. So this is going to be a project we'll start next year. This is iconic. So a lot of opportunities here in San Diego. Also, we have down in South Bay, in Chula Vista, a terrific opportunity. Rita, a world-class convention hotel resort developer, we're very close to kind of cracking a deal with them to build a large 1,000-room convention center and hotel right near the harbor. It's a 550-acre opportunity. It's all entitled. A lot of different opportunities within that particular master development. So these are things that are happening. We're looking for investment. We're eager to do long-term deals because we're looking for that private partner to have a return. We get a piece of the action on our land lease. And this is how the port does business in real estate, a series of public-private partnerships, and we're open for business. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about moving from the very, very big bay to the very small airport and talk about San Diego International Airport, the busiest single runway airport in the country. It is impossible in our region, like in any region, to talk about the strength of our local economy without talking about one of its economic engines, which is our airport. So I'm going to just, I guess, talk about the airport for a moment since I don't think we have the presentation up. Let me give you a brief overview of our airport authority. We were formed as a separate authority in 2003 to really focus on the development and operation of the airport, to be able to plan for the future air transportation needs in our region, and do it in a way that was meant to not only provide a great experience and great customer service to folks flying in and out of the airport, but to do it in a way that enhanced and protected both our local economy and the quality of life in the region. We have an urban airport that sits in the middle of the city. It's greatly convenient, but that also means that while we sit on a very small 660 acres, we are surrounded by downtown and residences in the city. We see more than 50,000 passengers a day through our airport, and last year saw a record number of passengers in and out of the airport, almost 19 million. We're a single-purpose entity, and that allows us to focus just on the development of our airport and meeting the needs of the region in that regard. We had about a $250 million organization each year in terms of operating expenses, but more importantly, in terms of growing our airport and helping our local economy. We have about an $800 million capital plan over 5 years to continue to develop facilities at the airport. We do that with fewer than 400 full-time employees at the Airport Authority itself, although there are more than 6,000 employees who are badged and participating at the airport.
Well, there you go. Look at that.
I know, I got great infographics and everything. Look at that.
Yeah.
The current layout of our little airport is right here. There have been a lot of studies over the years about how to improve this airport and potentially move this airport or locate a second airport somewhere in San Diego County or in the vicinity of San Diego County. When the Airport Authority was formed, it was charged with looking at all those alternatives. We studied 39 alternatives, put the best alternative on the ballot in 2006, and by over 60%, the voters in San Diego said no, they actually would prefer the airport to remain where it is. So it is now our goal to make this airport as efficient and effective as we possibly can. We've done that starting with a project we called the Green Build. This was an expansion of the airport that opened in 2013. We added 10 new gates. We enhanced curbside check-in, built a dual-level roadway, greatly expanded the security checkpoints, and really made it an airport where you can experience what's best about San Diego. Our concessions program for food, beverage, and retail, you can get a taste of San Diego, and it's a really pleasant environment to be in and to leave out of. And because San Diego is a military town, we are very, very proud to be the site of the world's largest airport USO. Ultimately, this project, also from an economic standpoint, provided 90% of the work was done by local companies, and about 25% of the work was done by small businesses and historically underrepresented businesses. We've made a huge commitment to ensuring that work is distributed fairly and equitably here in San Diego, and really recognizing that San Diego's future is really about growing our own local businesses and our own small businesses and supporting those. We were really proud that this is also the world's first LEED Platinum certified airport terminal. We are currently in the midst of building a rental car center for consolidated rental car operations, similar to facilities you've seen at other airports around the country. That facility will open in January. It's a little more than a $300 million project. Of that, over $200 million has gone to local businesses and $70 million going to small businesses. And the most remarkable part of that is when we broke up those packages, only about $72 million was really small business eligible, and the small businesses won almost all of that work. For those who are interested, before you talk to Marshall about their restaurant opportunity, we also have a restaurant opportunity here.
Whoa, push him.
That's on the upper floors, on the third floor of this building, with a 180-degree panoramic view of from downtown to Point Loma, and overlooking the airfield. So talk to him too, but come and look at ours first.
We got a booth. We got a booth in the back. We're good. We're ready to go.
So what are we doing after this? This project will help with some of the impact in the neighborhood. We'll have a consolidated busing fleet of 16 buses instead of the 80 plus that currently service the rental car companies. It'll take a lot of the traffic off of the street out in front of the airport. But what we're doing right now is planning the next phases of development at the airport. If you've flown into Terminal 2 and had that great experience in the Green Build, the first question people ask is, so when are you doing something about Terminal 1? Thank you. And what we're doing about Terminal 1 is tearing it down and building something new. We're working on the airport development plan. This will be the next phases of development to replace Terminal 1, to add about 10 more gates, to redevelop the last bits of property that we have around the airport, to work with our partners at the regional planning agencies, San Diego Association of Governments, or SANDAG, on an intermodal transit center to bring more transit close to the airport. All of these plans that we've been working on for the last couple of years are narrowing down. We're going to pick a preferred alternative sometime, I believe, this month, work forward on our environmental documentation. And the goals of that will be to have a dedicated airport roadway that takes all the traffic for the airport off of Harbor Drive onto airport property, provides us some commercial development opportunities to help pay for all this. Airports are not tax funded other than money that comes through a small portion of ticket tax, but they're really paid through user fees, parking, spend at the concessions. And so this gives us an opportunity to be able to expand the airport and do it in a way that will most benefit the city and the local economy. Immediately what you're going to see is the construction of a new parking structure in front of Terminal 2. That work will start sometime this year. Again, that will provide more right up front parking opportunities and help pay for the airport. So ultimately, we're really proud to be a partner with our friends at the Chamber and EDC and the Port and others to work with the local business community and be able to bring air traffic to San Diego that is good for tourists and good for our businesses and ultimately good for the local economy. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
We are very proud to have 9 international flights a day in and out of San Diego, including a British Airways flight to London and a Japan Airlines flight to Tokyo. The best part about those flights is that they provide access to all the European markets and all the Asian markets, and are an important part of being able to encourage not only the tourism industry here, but also the rest of the business community.
And then also, tell us what's on the horizon with some of the new international flights. I know you've got some new ones that are in the talking stages.
So at the moment, we have a number of daily flights to Mexico, both to the leisure and business destinations. Mexico is also largely served through Tijuana. The new cross-border connection there will be an improvement for those intra-Mexico flights. We fly to the north in Canada. We fly to London and to Tokyo, where we don't currently have flights, and we really could need them in terms of local demand, is to Central and South America. So our real focus is currently on Central America, being able to provide a flight there that, like London and Tokyo, would provide through traffic to other cities to the south. That's currently a 3-stage flight to get to South America, and if it can be a 2-stage flight like many of the continental Europe flights and the rest of Asia beyond Tokyo, that's a great improvement. So that's our main focus.
Well, and I think that's going to be very exciting. How many of you are aware of the new facility so that you can cross from the U.S. right directly into Rodriguez Field? You park in the U.S., you ticket in the U.S., you cross through border protection in the U.S., you drop right into Rodriguez Field and can take flights all over Mexico, also to Asia and other places. I don't know if all of you are aware of that. The service starts in December, and I think there'll be about a $15 charge to do that. But that means you don't have to go through any borders, and it's going to make it very accessible for, and take some of the load off of Lindbergh Field, hopefully, so that they can focus on the things that they do best.
Yeah, ultimately, the answer to having an airport that is reasonably constrained, we have room to grow. We can probably go to about 28 million passengers a year from the 19 we're at currently. But the way we're going to do that is in little incremental efficiencies and being able to have some local demand carried out of Rodriguez. It helps us.
So for any of the three of you, what makes San Diego uniquely San Diego? Something that is enough to attract investors globally to invest in our region. Do you want to start with that, Sean?
Sure, Jerry, that's a great question. That's the number one question we get from foreign investors, and every time the answer to us is our people. It's our workforce. It's the talented folks that are educated in our local universities, creating jobs, the entrepreneurial base that's here. We see 5th, 6th, 7th generation entrepreneurs here in our community that continue to invest back into San Diego. So I would say, it is our people, obviously the binational nature of the economy and the flow, the global understanding of our folks here in the community. In fact, 25% of our population base is a first-generation immigrant. It frankly leads the country. We're in the top 10 most diverse cities in the country. So that's what we hear from investors all the time about why they're continuing to invest in San Diego, why companies continue to grow here, is ultimately the smart folks that we've got in our own backyard.
And Marshall, the port's very involved in things that are uniquely San Diego, but also international.
Right, yeah, no, the integration of San Diego's innovation economy with this beautiful coastal property with this unique outdoor lifestyle that San Diegans enjoy is a real magnet. You really get a mix, and there's something for everybody here. It's not just what it used to be for years and years, which is a Southern California city. It's truly international, and we've taken advantage of being on the Pacific Rim, but also on the border with Mexico and Central America. I mean, there's been some real neat combinations. So and we try to emphasize that in every project we do along the bayfront, to represent, in a sense, this really tremendous integration of those things.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
One thing.